Hello, fellow creatives. Today we're going to talk about 6 tips for better building an Ark, and we are going to do it by way of a little brief tour of the Building Evolved server. This is a creative building server, and back when I built all this on it, there was maybe about 3,000 of you, and now there are almost 10,000. So we are going to go ahead and start at the top with tip number 1. Tip number 1 is that you should always try to find a backdrop to inspire you. This is a really cool backdrop. I really wanted to build a house on top of one of these giant pillars on the center map, and I think it turned out pretty well. Now, if you look at it, it's just kind of a plainish sort of house. It's got a veranda on the top around it, but it's pretty conventional for most types of things. If you look around inside, you can see just standard S Plus tables and chairs, a very basic upstairs here. But the thing that really makes this build is the scenery. Just look at this view. Look how crazy it is. It's just really amazing. Tip number 2, always try crazy things if you can get away with it. So this place is just built down the side of a rock. And then, of course, we have, let's just kind of zoom out here and check this out here. Look at this staircase that just goes all the way down like this. This thing doesn't have any foundation support, but we have that turned off on this server for S Plus objects. And so those things float, and you can just kind of anchor them into the side of the rock to make it look like you have built a staircase down this giant rock spire, which I think is pretty crazy. So you should always try something nutty like this and just see if you can get away with it. So tip number 3, tell a story with your build. This build is a Buddhist community who lives in this house on the top of this hill. They're building a temple down below, and they need resources to be able to do it. And so what they did was they built this exquisite, amazing, steampunky looking dock thing to offload the materials with their Quetzals with as they bring them in from the other parts of the world. And so that's kind of how this build kind of started up. Now, I didn't start out with that story completely fully formed, but that is kind of an idea of the sort of thing you kind of think of when you want to build something. But the other way you can do this is you can also tell your own story. And this is more about when you present your builds to other people. So with this build, I was in a place creatively where I didn't quite know what to do with my YouTube channel. And so I was building on this server with UTC, and we were the only two doing it. And it was just kind of an experiment to see what would happen with my building if I just focused on it and focused on art and just kind of narrowed my focus down. How many times can I say focus? I don't know. But anyways, it ended up being like amazingly successful because now there's like 7,000 more of you than there used to be, which is pretty awesome, I have to say. But it really showed me that my dream of being able to do YouTube videos or content creation full time really is within reach, because it means that I'm providing you a certain type of value, a certain type of creative inspiration that you don't get from other people. And now all I have to do is just figure out how to scale this up, because this works. This got me to 10,000 a year, 10,000 subscribers in a year, and a lot more watch time. And I thought it would take me like 5 more years just to get this far. So it's really kind of amazing, because one of the things I'm doing is I started up a Patreon the other month, and Shane actually joined right at the beginning of this month, and I'd like to shout him out and say thanks for his support. But what Patreon lets me do is it really lets me do kind of videos like this where I can give you the value that you need, but I can also give you personalized value. So we have a whole patron community that really believes in this mission that I'm on, to inspire gamers with the belief that, you know, they really are actually creative and that everyone has that potential. And, you know, if you found my videos helpful and you want to support me directly in that mission, that's what the Patreon's for. But I just really appreciate having you watching my videos too. But anyway, tangent aside, this is really kind of an example of how you can tell your story about where you were at and kind of the internal motivations that inspired you to build what you built. So let's move on to tip number 4. Tip number 4 is to build mundane buildings in exotic places. This is a goods store, but it's built on the side of a cliff. as you can see. So this is a pretty good place to do something really exciting because we have just all sorts of things that you could pick up at the store, assuming this is like an RP server or something like that. And we have, more goods up here, kind of a nice little office in here. This is all very kind of standard sort of Ark building stuff, except maybe those support beams. But, building something in an exotic place, even if it, just is kind of strange looking, it really just adds just that much more character to a build. All right, so who wants to see if creative mode actually works? We're going to go ahead and head down here. Geronimo! Yes, I'm not dead. I did take damage, but I'm not dead, so that works for me. So we're going to go over here, and we're going to go with tip number 5, root your builds in the real world. So this pagoda and this whole temple really is part of a kind of a standard Buddhist temple layout. So cheat fly. You don't have to do this with every build you do, but it is helpful. It also can be part of telling your story. You see how this kind of merges in with tip number 3. But a Buddhist temple has a central pagoda. And so this one goes up several levels, and then we have a tower up here. And this is all, if you look up a pagoda in a Buddhist temple, you can see that this is all fairly standard equipment that comes with it. But it looks really cool just because, you're taking something from the real world and you're translating it into Ark. And that's always a sure way to go if you are looking for inspiration. All right, so let's get it on our Tapahara and head on over to the docks, which you have been waiting patiently for. So this thing is going to inform our tip number 6, which is to repurpose objects outside of their intended use. Exhibit A, this dock cabling that's holding the dock up so that it's not just kind of floating over this side of this cliff, but it actually looks like it has support. Those are railings. I use those. You could use electric cabling, but that kind of goes at a kind of a steep rate, so I didn't want to do that. But if you look just kind of outside the box at these railings, you just look at the basic shapes, and you look at how you can twist them and put them in different places, at just places that are outside of their intended use, you can come up with some creative looking stuff. Like another example is these upside down walkways. With S+ foundation support turned off, there is a trick that you can actually flip these around so that these ceilings, are upside down and the support beams are laid bare. And that gives it a nice contrast to the more conventional sort of ceilings that are right side up. And of course, we got these what are these? Fence foundations, and they make a nice little border, a nice little frame for this dock thing. And let's see, the other cool thing about this, let's just hop on up over here, is this whole tech teleporter. This is another example of this sort of principle in action. I built these gates, and then I painted them certain colors. So they're tech gates with railings and some diagonal pieces and walls and a pillar. And they just I manually ringed them around this tech teleporter, and it creates a neat little sort of kind of pad look that is completely unique to anything I've ever seen. It, of course, takes hours to build, but, if you want really cool stuff, sometimes putting in the time is very helpful. And last but not least, these tech railings are upside down. And they just give this arm right here, this metal arm, sort of a nice little decorative fringe that adds something to the shape of this. So it's really cool that way too. So yeah, that is 6 whole tips for how to build creatively in Ark. But really, honestly, Cabs told me just a few minutes ago that one of the best tips that I ever gave him was to just build. Don't wait until you have something cool to do. Let inspiration take you. Just start, even if it's just a square build. Add something onto it, but just start building. And as you keep building new stuff, you'll get more and more creative. It really is just sort of a practice makes perfect kind of thing. And by the way, this channel is filled with lots of building tutorials and building showcases that are designed to inspire you creatively. So if you do need that inspiration, and if that sounds awesome to you, then please hit subscribe, hit that bell icon so you don't miss a single video. And then I will see you next time. And in the meantime, go make something awesome. Bye.